cost roughly? I just like to understand how the magnitude of these expenses.
Yusek Guevara.
Okay, yeah, sure. Just a ballpark figure.
The initial cost, Madam Chair,
Smart
is
grid.
$10 billion US dollars.
$10 billion US dollars.
To the chairman of the standing committee, the chairman of the standing committee on energy, Senator Pia Cayetano. So
Thank you,
thank you
Mr.
very
Chair.
much, Senator
Very
Risa,
welcome, Mr.
for allowing us to pursue our tradition here. So we recognize Senator Pia Cayetano for her questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator Risa. Good morning, everyone. Senate President Pro Tem, good morning. Welcome, Attorney Jessie Andres, to the world of energy. Like me, you're new to this, so we will. Well, I at least will be listening more than talking. I was listening online before arriving here. So I'll go straight to some of my questions. Good morning, Secretary. Good morning, everyone. I'll go straight to some of my questions, many of which are statements that come from the energy sector directly and just confirmatory so that we can show our support, no? But I'll jump into the last versus first because I was just listening to the NEA presentation online and I told the chairman, did I hear it correctly? Because I was mobile na the word you used that we would be hard pressed to reach the targets by 2028. And I recall we did have a short discussion at the event, was it barely a month ago? What were the figures? Is it 16 billion that you're targeting for full electrification? Tama ba?
It's 69.97.
Okay.
97.
I remember we said, alam ko na ya, I remember we said if we had been able to allocate 10B a year, then we would have covered it, right? And it's exactly the same proposal the chairman will recall in DepEd. We gave the similar proposal na in the last administration. Over 6 years, we can make this happen, like really being disciplined to set aside this amount. Sadly, when you compress that to 3 years, then to 2 years, it doesn't seem feasible anymore. But if we could have really done that over the span of 6 years. So I will do my best with the support, of course, of the subcommittee vice chair to push for whatever we can in the remaining time. But again, I come from my experience more on the education sector, which both of us do. It's a very similar problem kasi yung naiiwan is yung mga outliers, di ba? So yung naiiwan. And to share a strange experience by analogy, when I went to Spain for a totally different topic, this was federalism. It was shown to us that they were very aggressive. I think I'm not sure if it was funding from EU on building roads, transportation all over Spain. So it's achieved. But then what happens is you look back and they realize halos walang gumagamit kasi they're all outliers. So how do you balance? No, it's really a question of balancing. If you had all the resources, then even one home in the hinterlands, you have to target them. But yeah, it is a question of balance. Okay, having said that, like I said, I'll run through this quickly so I don't waste everybody's time. Just nod and I'll ask that the record show that you nodded, you shook your head, disagreed. So I think it's clear to us, it's in the PEP that our target is a shift to renewable energy, no? I was going to mention, and I am going to mention Senator Risa's name because during her interpellation on the natural gas bill, a big focus of her interpellation was to ensure that any plans we have on transition fuel or anything else does not derail our goal of going towards renewable energy. And let the record show that the Secretary is nodding his head. And I mean, feel free to add, but in the interest of time, if it's non-controversial, I'll just say you all agreed. Okay. So that being the case, and then the other principle is we are promoting indigenous energy source. And I have to say this because for the last 5 years, I chaired the Senate Committee on Sustainable Development, Innovation and Futures Thinking. And my training requires that I look to the future, and energy security is synonymous with indigenous. There is just no way that we can hope to achieve security when we're importing. And the example I gave on the floor is agriculture. Who will say that the number one priority is to import rice? Who will say that? It happens because of a lack of supply or whatever. But at the end of the day, the goal is to strengthen our indigenous sources, whether it's agriculture, whether it's water, it's energy. So I think that's a given. So, you know, I'm just laying the predicate for my statements moving forward. So, and this is where my questions are about to come in, Secretary. This is the part where I may have missed it. So if I missed it, there's no need to repeat it. In your presentation, did you give an update on the renewable energy projects? Was it given in the presentation? Because if it was, then
Yes.
it was. Okay. So we have 1,000 plus pending renewable energy projects. That is correct. Okay, 1,000 plus. So that's not bad at all, no? And in order to promote the development of renewable energy, the DOE actually conducts green energy auctions, right? Okay. And you've done a couple of rounds. That is correct also. And this is something that I came across, I would say 10 years ago, because I actually had a personal friend who was trying to get into the energy sector. And I think this is a fact, no? Based on DOE, Department Circular 2024-06-0018, the DOE allows RE developers to commence permit processing, conduct surveys and other feasible activities before the 25-year term begins, right? Okay. But a developer can actually secure their service contract and not do anything. That is correct, right? So parang they're parking it because, as I said, this is something that was brought to my attention 10 years ago. Now they park it, they secure it, and then nobody else can develop. So what can we do about that? I mean, that's a problem, no?
Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, there is a cleansing process that is ongoing,
Okay.
and that's why we've had to devote human and financial resource to review
Hindi pa kaya ng AI.
all the existing.
Kailangan human resource.
Not yet, because we don't have budget to employ AI, so we're upgrading right now our
Okay,
platforms
okay,
to be
okay.
able to do that.
So it can be done through AI then?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's another thing I wanted to bring into the discussion, because my experience is more in health and education.
Yes.
I actually am more familiar with you know the technologies available, but obviously we should know. And if you need budget for that, please present it so we can assist.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's a cleansing process, and so that's a clear issue that you're trying to solve.
That's right.
Okay, because it'll bog down our progress. Okay. My next point is again, no, this is something that Senator Risa brought up, but it's something that I also bring up all the time. It's something I learned when I became chairman. You know, we're all pro solar, pro renewable. And then you learn that, well, how do you store these things? No, so I think Senator Risa, I mentioned that during our hearing, that's the biggest issue. And so, speaking of storage, I understand, and again, to keep it short, no, one of the solutions is to upgrade the Philippine grid to a smart grid, so that it allows the installation of sensors and technology to manage the increased injection of renewables to the grid. Okay, so that can be done. And how much does that cost roughly? I just like to understand how the magnitude of these expenses.
Yusek Guevara.
Okay, yeah, sure. Just a ballpark figure.
The initial cost, Madam Chair, is
Smart grid.
$10 billion.
$10 billion. Okay. So yun na nga. So when we talk about, because I like the public, I like the younger generation to understand, because you know, renewable, sino ba may ayaw? But then, wow, 10 billion. I was gonna say, 10 billion, kaya natin yun. Dollars. Okay. Si Senate President Pro Tem na lang ang maghahanap ng 10 billion US. But we have to find a way, no? And so then the other available option is to strengthen the grid through the energy storage systems. So to me, a layman, just like in the Committee on Health, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a health professional, I'm also not an energy expert, so I'm learning these terms along the way. The energy storage systems, one would be like a traditional battery, no? And I was given a picture, mukha pala siyang 20-footer, no? So yung battery, parang pinalaki mo lang. So that's the storage facility. So that's one, that's a energy storage system. Apparently, in our PEP, it says that the capacity has to increase by more than 150 times in the next 25 years. So that's quite an ambitious goal, no? So is that something that we can actually achieve? Yes, we can.
Yes po, we can achieve that.
Okay, great. Okay. Now, the other is the pump storage hydro power, or the PSH, right? And that is also doable. And tama ba na I understand that you've conducted a green energy auction to get this done, but we're not done yet? What is the status? Ongoing. Do we have a timeline? Because I understand that there are investors just ready to get it done. And we need it because this will address Senator Risa and my concern and all the other renewable energy advocates' concern, because we'll have the storage, which we keep on saying that is the problem why we cannot fully embrace renewables as fast as we want to.
Our target for the Green Energy Auction 3 is to finish it before the end of the year.
Okay.
Such that the pump storage hydro, about 3,000 megawatts, will be able to come in 5 years from now.
Okay, so yeah, so that's always the thing, no? I mean, this process which takes long as it is, tapos ang tagal pa once it's awarded, once all the permits are cleared, it still takes a number of years. So we have your commitment that we'll fast track this, no? Okay, thank you.
And Madam Chair, just to
Yes.
add that one of the items required there would be the approval of the pricing methodologies and
With ERC.
With ERC.
Yes,
So we're
and
coordinating.
that is where I'm about to
Yes.
look at Attorney Jesse Andres and tell him that is one of the priorities I think we need to do, because in everything, the goal is to make that shift to renewables, and this is directly related to that. So I hope we can get that done. I understand that there are things that have to be done on the side of ERC as well. Thank you. Okay. My next line of questioning is on total electrification, which we have discussed, and let's just see how we can move that forward. I reserve my questions for ERC because I'm about to schedule a hearing for EPIRA. I do not take the time now of the budget hearing. Most of my questions will just be posed there. Hopefully next week. So are you in town? Okay, perfect. Are you in town? You have to be there also. Okay, good. Okay, I didn't think I'd have to ask this question, but Senator Risa and I are both advocates, so we understand that sa DOE Secretary, we can still improve our compliance with GAD requirements. So if we can be of any assistance, and I was trying to think, because you have to be very creative in using this fund. You can be very creative in using it. It's not just a matter of providing support for your female employees. I think, but we just have to get clearances, no. Years ago, when I attended annually Women Parliamentarian Conference, and we would have topics like women and technology, women and electrification, and I'm like, may ganon? I mean, they dissect it so specifically, and I'm listening to the experts, and I'm like, wow, these different sectors affect women in different ways. So I'm thinking now, when I saw this, that there might really be ways that we can improve the lives of women who basically run their homes, which need electricity, and use GAD fund somewhere there. So, Senator Risa, we can probably put our heads together and help them come up with creative ways to make best use of this Gender and Development Fund. Nandiyan na rin lang naman yun eh. And then, Actually, I do have one question for ERC pala. Apparently, there was a core report that says that ERC was not able to prepare its plans, programs, and project for senior citizens and persons with disabilities on time due to the delayed reconstitution of the new ad hoc team. Tama ba? Only because, these are the sectors that get left behind. So, it may seem like a minor concern, but
May I refer the question to our Executive Director,
course, of
Attorney
course.
Fajardo?
Good morning, Your Honor. That was in 2023. The committee was reconstituted, and then afterwards, they were able to conduct info dissemination campaigns already. So we've already addressed it,
Okay.
Your Honor.
all right, okay. And just as a standard procedure for me, if I can just get a copy of all your responses, all the agency man has always been prepared to support your budgetary needs. But since I now chair it, kindly give me your wish list, all of you, as well, so I can work with the chairman to try to find funding. Okay. I think I'm okay for now, Mr. Chairman. I'll be listening and maybe add something towards the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Pia. Senator Risa? Okay. Yeah, you may recognize Senator Risa for her questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, ipagpatuloy ko lang sa originally sa DOE pero sinasagot na ng NEA. So, kanina pinag-usapan po natin yung bagong timeline sa target originally ng 2023. So ano naman po yung current status ng 2024 national level electrification target ng 698,232 households? On track po ba yung target na ito na ma-attain? Kung hindi, bakit hindi? At ano din yung revised timeline para sa target na ito?
Mr. Chair, ma'am, for the 2024 timeline, the regular connection was already achieved. No, the target of 384,000, I think. The difference will lie. Difference will lie on the fact that the 79,000 sitios or household that is targeted through the sitio electrification program, only a meager number is only achieved because 99% out of the total budget was only granted. So the 91% will be translated into 89.36, taking into account all ongoing projects for 2024. So ma'am, magki-carry over ngayon yung difference na yon for 2025. So the most we can achieve for 2024 based on the 91% target is only 89.36.
Salamat po. Sabi niyo yung regular connection was achieved 100%. Pero syempre we're talking not just about connection but actual electrification. Hindi na rin bad yung 89%, pero tulad nung tanong ko po tungkol sa 2023 target, dahil parehong dahilan sa kanina, lack of government subsidy. So, by when yun nakikita yung 698,000 households na target originally ngayong taong 2024 ay ma-reach. And of course, sir, magkaiba yung sitios sa households, di ba? So, 79,000 sitios, how many households does that account
Ma'am,
for?
the rule of thumb we're using, Mr. Chair, ma'am, 30 household per sitio. 30 household per sitio.
So, kung 79,000 sitios, mga 210, tama ba? Tama ba yung aking multiplication? Or 2.1 million
Apo.
households? Okay, way beyond the 2024 target of 698,000 households. So, kailan po marireach yung 2024 target of 698,000 households? Is it like the earlier question, in another 2 years from 2024, or mga kailan po?
Ma'am, the regular household connection is done by the electric cooperatives, and ma'am, that's a moving target, no?
Okay po.
Now, if you'll benchmark it on 2023, maybe 2 or 3 years, ma'am, because the deficiency will rest on the inability for NEA and the electric cooperatives to cover for the CTO electrifications that has to come from the government subsidy.
All right, sir. Pero we're talking about the 2024 targets now. So, tulad ng 2023 target na sabi nyo ma-reach within 2 years from then or bandang 2025, ngayon sabi nyo within 2 to 3 years itong 2024 budget.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
hopefully by 2026 or at the latest by 2027.
The latest
Tama po ba?
2026, ma'am.
Latest 2026. Okay, better po. Salamat. And lastly, kaugnay nito, ano naman po yung proposed budget para sa 2025 national level electrification target ng 937,915 households? And if I may add, given na ang 2025 election year, yun ba yung paliwanag kung bakit yung 2025 target ay 34% higher than this year's target?
From the figures, ma'am, actually the manner of which we arrived at the targets, ma'am, we are basing it from the Philippine Statistics census of this. I believe this figure was based on the 2020 census. By 2025 census, ma'am, I believe there's a periodic census that will happen by 2025. We can already come up with actual figures based on the census. Because, ma'am, we have been extrapolating figures here just based on the 2020 census and coming up with formula on how to expect the increase in the household connections.
So, pinoproject nyo lamang na tataas yung
Yes,
bilang
ma'am.
sa
Yes, ma'am.
2025 census.
Yes, ma'am.
Nagkataon lang na election year din yun.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ano po yung budget para dun sa target of 937,000 households in 2025?
Ma'am, the regular household connection, I think it will consist about 60% of that, and that will be done through the regular member consumer owners, increase in member consumer owners, and 40% of which I would like to think that would be the one to cover the household on the unviable areas, and these were already surveyed by the electric cooperatives. And that should be the subject of the CTO electrification, of which funding will be coming from the national subsidy.
And that funding, or those two sources, the 60% from one source and the 40% from the other, ano po yung magiging total budget para dun sa 937,000 households in 2025?
The original proposal was we will be needing what's the budget for 2025? We'll be needing 16.57 billion, ma'am, for 2025.
16.57 B.
Yes, ma'am.
For 2025. Okay, salamat, sir. Ngayon po yung, according to the NTER, under the total electrification project for fiscal years 2021 to 2023, the target was to energize, and muli, not just connect, but to energize 39,685 households. But as of September 2023, only 12%, or a mere 3,468 households were energized. The budget estimate for this targeted energization was on average 35,400 pesos per household to be energized. If we use this same estimate for the 4.2 million households targeted to be connected by 2028, so yung sa buong 5-year development plan yun na, it seems the budget requirement for this multi-year endeavor will be roughly 150 billion pesos. So baka modest pa nga yung budget nyo for 2025 na 16.5 billion pesos kung sa buong mula ngayon hanggang 2028, 150 billion pesos. So ano yung budgeted amount to achieve this target, Mr. Chair? Under whose budget is this? Paano po ito finifinance? And plano ba ng gobyerno na umutang ng pera para dito? At kung oo, mula sa aling mga institusyon at anong mga halaga? So,
Yeah.
will it still be NEA, Mr. Chair, or do I go back to DOE?
Ma'am, I think the budget of 150 billion
150 billion.
covers part of it, the regular connection, no? So that is supposedly to be covered by the member consumer owners. The difference of which, that's how we computed the 69.97 billion. Only pertaining to the cost of the household connections that will be subject of the C2 electrification. And if I may stress, ma'am, if I may articulate, out of the 69.97 billion, I think 30 billion of which was allocated or planned to be allocated for the photovoltaic mainstreaming, which will cover about more or less 300,000 households, or the solar home systems to be installed on those unviable dispersed households and situated in unviable areas, of which we are now implementing, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Medyo nalilito na po ako kasi we have here, nababanggit nyo, a target of 300,000 households. But I thought we were talking about 39,685 households.
The 300,000 will cover for the whole 5-year program.
Okay. All right. And ang budgeted amount to cover these 300,000 households ay yung sinasabi nyong 69.97 billion pesos.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then ito po ay sa ilalim ng budget ng department or ng
Ma'am,
NEA?
the NEA is the implementing agency
Yes.
because we're doing this in partnership with the electric cooperatives.
Yes.
So the NEA identifies the programs submitted to us by the electric cooperatives, and we are the ones prioritizing, of which at present, as we speak right now, NEA is prioritizing the areas in the island of Mindanao.
Okay po. So itong ang 69.97B ay nasa ilalim ng NEA.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, salamat sir. And pinifinance ito dun sa binanggit yung dalawang funding sources kanina, 60% from one source and 40% from another source.
Ma'am, 60% of which will be paid by the member consumer owners.
Yes.
And that part of the total of which part that will be subject for the C2 electrification that will translate to the household connections, ma'am, that will be coming from the government subsidy.
From the government subsidy. Yun yung 40%.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, uutang pa ba yung gobyerno para dito? Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, on the as has been articulated by NEA, we are dependent on principally on government subsidy. So the incurring loans is only a way of funding the gap. And while we are looking at on the NPC side for the missionary areas, while we are looking right now at a $461 million loan for off-grid electrification and backbone, that is still being discussed with DOF and NEDA, and whether it can be accommodated in the medium-term plan of government, the Philippine investment plan for the rest of the administration. So it's there is no certainty yet that we will get those amounts, but we will continue to work with the other agencies of government to be able to do that. Thank you.
Salamat, Mr. Secretary. So, mayroong dinidiscuss pa ang department sa DOF at sa NEDA na $461 million loan para sa off-grid at saka backbone. And if ever na ikokontrata ito ng gobyerno, within the context nga sabi nyo ng MTPDP at saka yung Philippine Investment Plan, from which institutions dinidiscuss posibleng iutang ito?
DOF actually has been considering ADB and World Bank, but among the considerations, of course, is which will be the borrowing agency. Because the National Power Corporation, as you know, we have not been able to recapitalize, and therefore its balance sheet is unable to support the additional loans for NPC. So we're looking at various approaches, because if this is going to be a direct borrowing by the national government, it will add to the national government debt. Now, whereas if it's going to be a government-owned and controlled corporation, then it will not have an immediate impact on the total debt. Thank you.
So, Secretary, kung hindi pa nga naka-recapitalize yung NPC, at this stage of the discussions with the other department and with NEDA, aling mga GOCC yung kinoconsider na umutang nito kung mag-greenlight itong loan?
We have not yet determined that, Mr. Chair. So we will update the committee once the discussions progress on this. Thank you.
Salamat para doon, Secretary. Please do keep the committee updated through our chair. And lastly, sa paksang ito, kumusta po yung plano na i-connecta yung unserved at saka underserved areas kaugnay ng Microgrid Act? Paano yung mga energy poor households ay pwedeng ma-serve ng mga privatized exclusive microgrids? At paano nito gagawing affordable ang energy sa mahihirap?
Mr. Chair, can
Yes, Secretary.
Yusek Guevara?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Chair Yusek Guevara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam, for the microgrid, last year we were able to award 8 lots. One lot has several areas to make it fundable for the microgrid operators. Now this year we will do another auction towards the end of the year. So those that were not taken last year, like 41 of the lots were not taken, and then there are additional items requested by particular LGUs. These are all going to be auctioned. And now we are working with our investment and promotion office kasi we need to promote to potential investors in microgrid. And we have also talked to some of the banks so that they will fund these microgrid system operators when they finally lodge a bid for our auction. Thank you, ma'am.